Luo Yudu's robbery failed, and he fell from the upper realm to the mortal world, where his entire family was a sick farmer. Due to the weak health of the family, there is no one to plant in their fields, so they can only grow melons. The land is barren, and the melons grown are not delicious. Luo Yu sighed and transformed from a fox fairy to an unlucky little peasant girl. She stopped rolling and lay flat farming, relying on mountains and water to eat. Gradually, the people of Fengtian Village realized that the most unlucky Luo Yu family in the village had a different life. Not only could they eat meat now, but Luo Yu's mother's illness had also improved. Luo Yu lay in her field, waiting for a bountiful harvest of food, enjoying herself. Who said that one must cultivate immortality? It's also great to lie down and farm. Keywords of the novel. Crossing the tribulation failure, lying down to farm, so refreshing without pop-ups. Crossing the tribulation failure, lying down to farm, so refreshing. Download the full text of Crossing the Tribulation Failure, Lying Down to Farm, so refreshing. Read the latest chapters of Crossing the Tribulation Failure, Lying Down to Farm, so refreshing. Chapter 1. Compassion in the Same Disease. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Compassion in the Same Disease. In March, the spring breeze is warm and sunny. On the outskirts of the capital city, on the Dayuan mountain, warm sunlight projects in from the layers of leaves, speckled on the damp ground, and tree shadows sway. A lush bamboo forest on the mountain stretches out like a painting, with blue waves and waves. A small stream next to the bamboo forest is flowing with a clanging sound. The water is clear and bottoming out, and the depth is just below my calves. After waking up, Luo Yuqing lay in the stream for a long time, calmed down her mind, and then slightly opened her eyes and stood up. Water droplets fell down from her body, and her clothes pressed tightly against her delicate and graceful body like cicada wings, showcasing her feminine charm. She looked at the stream under her feet and couldn't help but wonder. Why did this inconspicuous stream, which even ants could wade through, drown? When this person is unlucky enough, even a stone as big as a grain of rice can smash a sinkhole for her. Her previous life's name was Luo Yu. She was originally a fox immortal who had been practicing for thousands of years. After finally completing her full cultivation, she was able to ascend to the top of the divine realm. However, one of her careless disciples was killed by the thunderbolt of the ascension. Her 1,000 years of hard work and cultivation have turned into nothing, and she is extremely unlucky. I don't know if it was fate that pitted her, or just a coincidence that allowed a strand of her soul to travel through time and space and attach itself to the equally unlucky named Luo Yu. Is it like birds of a feather flock together, people flock together? However, she was also fortunate that she had been practicing immortality for thousands of years and had never heard of anyone who could still be a human without achieving success through flying. Although the lifespan of mortals is not comparable to that of immortals, having something is always better than nothing. At least it can be considered a comfort that is better than nothing. She rubbed her temples and felt a slight headache. She found her memory fragmented and scattered, always feeling like she had forgotten something, but she couldn't say exactly what she had forgotten. Forget it, if you can't remember it, then you can't. In this world, she doesn't have any acquaintances or the need to say hello. Everything starts over again. After feeling relieved, she instinctively wanted to fly out of the stream, but with just one force, she fell heavily and splashed a splash of water. Oh, she forgot that she is now immortal. I have been a beast, a demon, a fairy, but I have never been a human. Although I have had countless experiences in my past life, I dare not be reckless in order to cultivate. It seems that I can become addicted to it in the future. Since I want to have a big fight in the future, then appearance is very important. With a nervous heart, she lowered her head to take a photo of the clear and bottomless stream, gradually feeling relieved in her heart. Fortunately, the heavenly way is still kind. Although her appearance may not be 1,000th of that of a fox fairy, as a mortal, it is still acceptable. Luo Yu went ashore and looked at the flat and green grassland. She decided to lie down and bask in the warm sunshine for half an hour. After her clothes were almost dry, she picked up the few bamboo shoots left by the original owner by the creek and walked towards Fengtian Village based on the memories left by the original owner. The original owner was born with bad luck and a weak body. From childhood to adulthood, misfortune occurred frequently, and her parents had to protect her every day to prevent her from accidentally falling and losing her life. Perhaps due to her bad luck and infectious constitution, her mother had difficulty giving birth to her, which left a root cause of illness. No matter how she was treated, it did not improve. She was too sick to do heavy work and became a famous medicine jar in the village. Last year, my father went up the mountain to chop firewood and fell off a cliff. Although he saved half of his life, he was disabled and had a limp in one leg. He was also a half-disabled person. Their family is truly a home of disabled and weak people. Grandpa Luo blamed everything that went wrong with his eldest son Luo Song on Luo Yu. When she was very young, he advised him to throw her away. As long as he threw her away, their family's bad luck would disappear and they would continue to live a peaceful and smooth life. Luo Song and his wife refused to throw anything away, saying that as long as they had a breath, they would take care of her for a day, and she was very precious. Therefore, Grandpa Luo separated them early on, allowing them to live and die on their own, so as not to implicate the entire Luo family. As Luo Yu walked, she rummaged through the memories left by the original owner, feeling a sense of wonder in her heart. With her unfortunate physique, she was either injured or sick, or fell. It was a miracle that she could live to be 18 years old now. Alas, in the end, I was drowned by the water with my feet bare. The Yuan mountain is not far from Fengtian Village, only 2 miles away. If the distance is too far, Luo Song will not allow his daughter to leave their site alone. Stepping out of the Yuan mountain, I saw villagers who knew me planting rice seedlings in the paddy field by the roadside. Qingming festival has just passed, everyone should hurry up and plant the seedlings, so that we can prepare the sweet potato seedlings on the dry land. The Luo Yu family are all disabled and weak, so they cannot farm. Before, Grandpa Luo divided several barren dry lands for them to grow sweet potatoes. However, the land is too barren and arid, and they don't have manpower to water it. The sweet potatoes they grow are only the size of a thumb, all with tendons, and they are very unpleasant to eat. The people of Fengtian Village saw Luo Yu with loose hair and disheveled clothes holding spring shoots coming from Dayuan Mountain, and began to whisper and discuss. How dare she go to Mount Dayuan alone, not afraid of falling to death? Yeah, how could her old man Luo Song have been disabled if he hadn't been implicated by her last year? Her mother also injured her body because she gave birth to her, and she is still a medicine jar to this day. I think she's just a debt collector. Damn it. Luo Song also committed her own wrongdoing and couldn't survive. Isn't it okay for such a person to throw her into the mountains and feed the wolves? She should be raised like a treasure. She deserves it. That's it. This kind of person can't be sympathized with. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Home for the Disabled. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Home for the Disabled. Luo Yu walked on the path, seemingly oblivious to the voices of others, his face still calm and focused on walking. Everyone saw her like this and spoke with even more enthusiasm. It seems that the harder you say, the more unique your perspective becomes. Suddenly, she hugged the few bamboo shoots tightly with one hand and waved her other hand towards the crowd, saying, "Uncle, aunt, hello." Everyone who was enjoying themselves said. The discussion came to a sudden halt. Did you hear this? Still haven't heard it. Luo Yu smiled and said, keep going, keep going. I'm leaving. Then. She really hugged a few big bamboo shoots and walked away with a smile. It seems like they were praising her just now. Everyone suddenly became chaotic in the wind. Is this still the unlucky Luo Yu from the past who couldn't speak clearly? On weekdays, if she encounters such a situation, she would always slip away with a black face, head down, and fear without saying a word. The key is, she managed to dig up a few fresh and plump spring shoots without any damage. Isn't this supposed to be left for them to finish farming before they can go digging? Luo Yu didn't do what he wanted and walked straight home. Before reaching the doorstep, I saw Luo Song leaning on a cane, anxiously waiting outside the dilapidated mud brick house. As soon as Luo Song saw his daughter's figure, his heart hanging in his throat finally fell. "Xiaoyu, you're back." Luo Yu felt a strange feeling in her heart. She has been practicing for thousands of years and has long forgotten what family love is like. Today, she has to play the role of a father-daughter relationship, which is a bit difficult for her. "Dad, I'm back." She pretended to be affectionate and replied, but the words came out of her mouth without any discomfort. Perhaps this body has emotional records. Luo Song was overjoyed to see Luo Yu safely return, and even more pleasantly surprised to see the few white and tender spring shoots she was holding. "This is the first time my daughter has returned home unscathed with something since she was so old. This bamboo shoot is really good." With the busy farming season, many people don't go up the mountain to dig bamboo shoots. If they sell them at the market, they may get a good price. "Yes, Dad, I'll take it out for sale tomorrow." "Are you going?" Luo Song paused. "Xiaoyu, I'll take Jiangbo's car tomorrow. You take care of your mother at home." Luo Yu understood Luo Song's concerns, and her unlucky physique is likely to have no return. "Well, she can't come back, can she?" "Dad, don't worry, don't you think I'm good at digging bamboo shoots this time? I've grown up and I need to help you and your mother share the burden. I can't hide at home all my life without going out, can I? She is a 1,000-year-old fox fairy." Luo Song persisted, "Isn't there still me and your mother? We can protect you for a while." Luo Yu said, "But Dad, you guys will eventually grow old. At that time, my front door never left. How should we live?" Luo Song fell silent and sighed. After all, it's still Dad who's useless. Luo Yu wanted to comfort him a few more words when she heard her mother LV Lirong calling her inside. She walked into the interior, the light dim and obscure, and a strong medicinal smell rushed towards her nose. She took advantage of the sunlight seeping through the tightly closed wooden frame window and saw a skinny woman lying on a simple wooden bed, her sunken cheeks dim and lifeless. "Mother." Luo Yu did not expect an emotion that had never existed in 1,000 years, and upon seeing such a woman, it was instantly activated. The sourness of the gaze reaches directly to the heart. "Xiaoyu, I heard you tell your dad outside that you're going to sell bamboo shoots." "Yes, my mother." Luo Yu sat down by the bed, and LV Lirong took her daughter's hand with pity, saying with guilt, "Mother wants you to live safely. When you get married in the future, even if we are gone, you won't be helpless." Getting married. Before Luo Yu could think much, the woman next to her sighed again. "Your grandfather passed away early, and you were burdened by me. Otherwise, you should have achieved something. With a skill to support you, you wouldn't have been as eye-catching as you are now." Lu Lirong's rambling was heard by Luo Yu, and memories belonging to the original owner flooded in. Originally, her mother LV Lirong came from a medical family, but she insisted on marrying the farmer Luo Song, so she had very little contact with her mother's family. Until Luo Yu was born, Grandpa LV pitied his granddaughter for her frail body and bones. When she turned 3, he often took her with him to teach her medicine and pharmacology, regulate her body, and she was able to grow up healthy. Although she often stumbled and fell, she was able to self-heal according to what she had learned without any major problems. When she was 10 years old, Grandpa LV passed away suddenly, and LV Lirong was hit hard and fell ill. Luo Yu no longer went to the LV family, but only took care of LV Lirong at home. When LV Lirong gave birth to a daughter, she had already suffered fundamental injuries. Under the care of LV Tay, she improved a lot. Later, due to the sudden death of LVT, she was hit and fell ill again. Over the years, she also relied on Luo Yu's half-hearted medical skills to raise her. Although her condition did not improve, she was not likely to die for a while. Mother, you don't have to feel guilty. Your illness is just that you think too much. After finishing her pulse, Luo Yu used the half-hearted medical skills of the original owner, and she already understood the problem of the cheap woman in front of her in her heart. Actually, it's not a big problem. If there are high-quality medicinal herbs for recuperation, recovery is not impossible. Just she looked around the dim and dilapidated bedroom, and their family was probably so poor that they had no rice to cook, let alone medicinal herbs. Since there are currently no medicinal herbs available, let's make it simple. Just use luck to open up the internal organs and veins, and everything will be fine. They cultivate immortals, and it's better to have miraculous elixirs. If they don't have them, they can still advance by luck and collaterals, gathering chi and concentrating energy. The method is simple and crude. She is just an ordinary person now, and the so-called immortal energy has disappeared with her shattered inner alchemy. Not to mention, she may not be strong enough to open up LV Lirong's meridians, even to catch a chicken. The original owner's body is already weak, and coupled with years of malnutrition, he is so thin that even a slight breeze requires him to tie a big tree to prevent it from flying away. How could he have the strength to open up the veins? Mom, don't worry for now. Everything will be okay. Just lie down and rest well. With your daughter around, you can rest assured and recover. Luo Yu comforted LV Lirong and then left the courtyard. She felt immense pressure when she first arrived, facing a sorrowful woman. For thousands of years, she has become accustomed to being a lone fox and suddenly has to live in groups. She really feels a bit at a loss. Luo Song is busy in the kitchen at the moment. There are several coarse grain mantou steaming on the pot. There is a plate of pickled vegetables on the old and white rice table. These are the staple food of their 3 meals a day. Smelling the smell of fireworks wafting out of the kitchen, a long-lost sense of hunger struck, and Luo Yu finally felt that she had truly become immortal. She is an ordinary person, so she has to eat, drink, and have sex. A bit annoying. Luo Yu went into the kitchen, said hello to Luo Song, reached out for a mantou, took a bite and walked out. Xiao Yu, where are you going? Luo Song saw her walking outside the yard and felt a bit uneasy. Dad, don't worry, I'll go for a walk. Luo Song. Why can't this child stay today? End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Whoever speaks falsely on sight. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Whoever speaks falsely on sight. Luo Yu swallowed the mantou in a few mouthfuls. This thing is too unpleasant to eat. If it weren't for her hungry stomach, she wouldn't be able to bite it. No, to improve life, we need to start with eating well. Otherwise, if you suffer while eating, what's the point of living? As soon as she left the village entrance, she looked up and saw the towering Great Plains mountain. I walked too quickly in the morning and didn't even observe the Taiyuan mountain carefully. With such a large mountain, there must be many good things. It's always right to rely on the mountains and eat the mountains. Luo Yu lifted her legs and walked towards Taiyuan mountain. Along the way, she encountered villagers who had returned to work transplanting rice seedlings. Everyone's faces were different, and they all reminded her like kind-hearted people. The third uncle of the villager said, Xiao Yu, why are you still running up the mountain alone? The mountain road is rugged and it's easy to stumble. What if you fall and get injured? You need to think for your parents. Luo Yu smiled brightly and said crudely, third uncle is right, but there's no firewood at home. If we don't go up the mountain to pick up some branches for firewood, why don't we go to your house and get a few bundles? Uncle San. The mountains have been covered in heavy snow for several months, and spring has just arrived. Who else has any extra firewood? Uncle Wu, who was walking behind, couldn't help but step forward to help Uncle San. This child is full of lies. I saw your father drying a lot of firewood at the door a few days ago. How come it's gone today? You need to know your own situation, don't just cause trouble for your parents. If you hurt anywhere, it's not them who suffer and suffer. Luo Yu narrowed his eyes and looked at the 5 uncle who looked like a kind elder. He said in a very sincere voice. The 5 uncle is right, but it's difficult for a clever woman to make a meal without rice. My family just has firewood and no rice to cook. How about the 5 uncle lending me some rice to cook congee? Uncle Wu, who regretted his humble words, said, This seedling has just been planted in the field and it will take several months to harvest. Every grain is precious. Hong Er Gong, who couldn't bear to watch, was taken aback. He, who was accustomed to presiding over justice, spoke up, Luo Yu, you are such a wicked girl. Everyone is worried and afraid of you, and you are not grateful. Humph, Luo Song doesn't know what harm has been done to give birth to you, such an unlucky ghost. Upon hearing Hong Er Gong's words, Luo Yu felt guilty on her face, as if her words had made her feel extremely ashamed. Er Gong's words are absolutely true. My family is indeed impoverished and my mother is almost dying of illness. Would you please lend me 2 taels of silver to treat her? I know you are the kindest person, so there must be no problem, right? She blinked pitifully at them. Hong Er Gong. Everyone. Whoever speaks falsely at the scene. Those who still want to care about the unlucky ones, are gritting their teeth, holding their breath and slipping away seeing their suppressed backs. Luo Yu couldn't help but snort in her heart. Under the guise of caring for others, she was actually just trying to satisfy her gossip mentality. Have the original owner received less ridicule in recent years? Now people from different backgrounds are not so easy to bully. Although Dayuan Mountain is close to Fengtian Village, due to the winter snow and ice, the mountain is busy with farming in spring. At this time, Dayuan Mountain is as undisturbed as the first awakening of all things, and everything still retains the traces of last year before winter. Because of this, the villagers have a certain grudge against Luo Yu, a idle person, for stepping on Mount Dayuan. She has always been plagued by bad luck. If something happens to her in Dayuan Mountain, wouldn't it be very unlucky? Do any of them dare to step into this mountain again? This mountain is a precious land bestowed upon them by heaven in Fengtian Village. Apart from farming and obtaining food, they rely entirely on this mountain for their livelihood. If Luo Yu blocks their financial path, they will never refuse. Luo Yu came empty-handed this time, originally intending to explore the way first. Of course, she also didn't know what tools to bring. The previous tools were stored in a treasure bag, so she didn't need to consider what to take. Bringing things or something is very troublesome. Although she came empty-handed, she had no intention of going back empty-handed. Luo Yu did not pass by the grassland where he woke up in the morning. It was a vast expanse, and as soon as he could see, it was difficult to catch any insects and there were no birds or animals to catch. She dived into the dense forest, where tall trees blocked the sunlight like umbrellas, refreshing, and the chirping of birds could be heard. She turned her head to listen attentively, her ears twitched, and suddenly squatted down. With her right hand, she picked up the stones in the bushes and stood up, throwing them quickly towards the dense top of the tree. With a loud bang, something was hit, and a bird cry startled her. On the damp morning ground, there was a muffled sound, and a big bird fell to the ground. Luo Yu patted the soil on his hands and walked up to see a plump green bird. Today's dinner is ready. She is a fox, and the hunting ability of foxes is beyond doubt. As long as she is willing, none of these birds can leave. She picked up the big green bird still struggling on the ground, grabbed its neck with one hand, and strangled it to death. Alive, a bit noisy. If it had been before she had become immortal, she could have eaten it directly, but now that she is a person, she needs to eat it with dignity. As for how to handle it, the original owner Luo Yu will be very careful. The big green bird, who died without closing its eyes. Who offended me with this move? The birds in the forest, why did they just eat me? Luo Yu ignored it and was about to leave the forest with a large bluebird weighing a few pounds when he heard a chirping sound. She felt a wave of joy in her heart. Isn't that the rabbit's cry? She placed the dead green bird on the ground, and with a movement of her ear, she locked in the specific location where the sound came from, which was in the grass behind a big tree 10 steps away from her. She held her breath and flew over with a brisk step. Before the wild rabbit in the grass could react, she had already grabbed her ear and lifted it up, causing her legs to kick wildly. This fool, seeing my aunt still not running, lured me over. Damn it! Luo Yu disliked the rabbit's restlessness and didn't want to harm its life for the time being, so he tied a few thatched grass ropes to firmly bind its 4 legs, making it unable to move. It's not how kind she is, but that dead things are not worth money, and she still wants to rely on them to earn medical expenses to treat her cheap mother. Luo Yu, with a big bird in his left hand and a rabbit in his right hand, began to walk back. The mantou she ate at noon had already been digested. After a few moves, her belly began to drum. So she was not greedy. She would go home and eat first. Next time you come, make sure to bring tools, at least a basket or burlap bag. Otherwise, with just these hands, you won't be able to carry much. The birds on the tree seemed to hear her heart, but suddenly with a whoosh, they all flew away just after noon. Many people saw Luo Yugang go to Dayuan Mountain not long ago, and when they saw her come out again, they were surprised to see 2 more wild animals in their hands, which made their eyes drop. You should know that the bluebird is a type of bird with particularly plump meat. Although it is large, its movements are agile, and few people can hit 1 or 2 birds. Wait, she didn't seem to bring anything just now, did she? Did you just catch that big bluebird with bare hands? Ha! And that wild rabbit. Who doesn't know how clever the rabbit ghost is? How much effort does it take to set up traps to catch one? She only went into the mountain for half an hour, and then she got the rabbit. Hee hee. Open the article, please take care of it. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Unmarried Husband. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Unmarried Husband. Someone couldn't help but approach and ask, and Luo Yu didn't hide it. He smiled faintly and said, "This bird crashed into a big tree and died. I picked up the leak. Everyone. Rabbit. Oh, this rabbit saw the bird crash into a big tree and die. Its legs were so scared that it couldn't run anymore, so I brought it back. Everyone. They are in chaos in the wind. Is this still the Luo Yu they know? Can you pick up all of this?" Luo Song saw that his daughter had brought back a few kilograms of big green bird and a snow-white rabbit tied like Zongzi, and his chin was almost falling off. He was surprised until Luo Yu urged him to boil hot water, otherwise big green bird would not taste good after dying for too long. He came back to his senses and limped into the kitchen to boil water. Luo Yu found a long vacant chicken cage at home, untied the grass rope of the wild rabbit, put it in the cage, and Luo Song boiled the water. She scooped up a basin of hot water and brought it into the yard. She put the dead green bird in and scalded it, then began to pluck its fur. She divided it 3 or 5 times and finished the whole bird. She chopped half for making soup and half for braising. Luo Song originally wanted to keep some for tomorrow, but Luo Yu insisted on cooking all the food and said it was best to eat fresh food. Now that spring has just begun in Dayuan Mountain, there is plenty of wild game. If you eat it today, there will be more tomorrow. Luo Song hadn't smelled meat for a long time. Seeing that his daughter rarely liked it, he had to give up and cut off a spring bamboo shoot that she had brought back in the morning. He boiled it a few times and then braised it with bird meat. As for those who make soup, there are no good medicinal herbs or seasonings at home. They soak a handful of dried mushrooms picked from the mountains in the past, add a few slices of ginger, and simmer slowly. The whole room is filled with fragrance. With meat and mantu, Luo Yu went to the field not far from home and pulled out a lettuce. She cooked a stir-fried lettuce to relieve her boredom. LV Lirong also got up, although her face was not very good, she sat in the yard with a chair, basking in the warm sunshine. Watching the father and daughter busy around, her heart felt much more comfortable. It's just beginning of spring now, and the sunlight is still short. Before long, the sun will set. Just as Luo Song and his daughter had set the dishes and prepared to eat, a young man stood outside the courtyard, his eyes constantly searching inside, hesitating whether to enter. This person is exactly Luo Yu's fiancée. Du Mingfeng. Lu Lirong accidentally saw Du Mingfeng at the door and immediately frowned with a smile, shouting, "Is that Mingfeng? Why are you standing at the door? Come in quickly, we're just about to have dinner, and it happens to be here to eat." Du Mingfeng was taken aback for a moment, his hesitant expression all over his face. "No, auntie, I've had it. I have something to do with Xiaoyu." Luo Song paused with a new set of chopsticks and said in a deep voice, "Let's talk about it after dinner. Tonight, we made braised bird meat and boiled soup." Du Mingfeng was very surprised when he heard the braised bird meat. How come they have bird meat to eat? Their Du family is a wealthy family, and these things are very rare. Moreover, it is currently a busy farming period, and even if they have money, it is difficult to buy them. Money, their family doesn't have it. He is very clear. Korasong is still limping, how can he hunt? The aroma of meat wafted over from time to time, tempting Du Mingfeng to forget what he came here for today. Just as he was about to step into the living room to rub his feet, he heard a familiar voice slowly coming. "Dad, don't be busy anymore. Didn't you hear him say eat? If someone just finished eating, you can ask them to continue eating. If they are full, you can take responsibility." Du Mingfeng suppressed the craving insects and looked up at Luo Yu. Luo Yu only focused on eating the meat on the table, without even giving him a straight eye, without any enthusiasm for him in the past, which inevitably made him surprised. After hesitating for a moment, he sneered and said, "Look at what you said, I don't know how to hold on, it's just. Don't you have something to say to me? Let's talk now." Luo Yu interrupted him, put down the dishes, and looked at him seriously. "Her flesh, I don't want to share it with others." Luo Yu did not see that it was okay. At first, Du Mingfeng began to panic. His thoughts finally came back from braised pork belly, he smiled at Luo Song and his wife, and said, "I want to talk to Xiaoyu alone." LV Lirong felt that Du Mingfeng today was a bit unusual. The Du family is an outsider from Fengtian Village, with only a few households and a small population. They lived in Fengtian Village for more than a decade to avoid the epidemic, and then settled in Fengtian Village. Lord Luo, who grew up in Fengtian Village, had some friendship with Lord Du. Once drunk, the two Lao Tai agreed that if their eldest grandchildren were all male children, they would become brothers, if they were female children, they would become sisters, and if they were a man and a woman, they would become husband and wife. Because of this, Du Mingfeng and Luo Yu were already involved before they were born. After birth, Luo Yu had a special physique and a bad reputation. Grandpa Luo advised Grandpa Du to give up, but Grandpa Du remained loyal and insisted on the marriage despite opposition from his son and daughter.in.law. Last year, Grandpa Du passed away, and Du Cheng and his wife had been wanting to push this marriage away all day. They didn't want to marry an unlucky ghost and bring trouble to their Du family. However, Du Mingfeng and Luo Yu grew up together since childhood and naturally developed feelings. They refused to withdraw from their marriage, resisted their parents, and disregarded their various threats and objections. They even planned to marry her after passing the national entrance examination in early summer this year. Seeing Du Mingfeng's evasive expression, LV Lirong could only say to Luo Yu, then you can go out with him for a walk. Maybe he really has something important to talk to you about. Anyway, the two of them have already put their marriage on the agenda. Even if they are seen together, they are not afraid of others gossiping. It's just that Du Mingfeng is a scholar, usually speaking openly and rarely being so reserved. Luo Yuchong glanced at Du Mingfeng and then walked straight to the outer courtyard. Du Mingfeng was a little flustered and walked slowly behind Luo Yu. The Luo family lives in a relatively remote area, on the edge of Fengtian Village, and out of the courtyard is a barren dry land. Luo Yu stopped on the dry land and turned to stare at Du Mingfeng, who was following him without saying a word. At this moment, the sun has already set, night has begun to fall, a thin mist has risen, and the chill of early spring strikes. Du Mingfeng didn't know if it was because of his thin clothes or because of Luo Yu's cold and indifferent gaze, which made him shiver for no reason. Xiao Yu, do you know? Luo Yu didn't answer and picked up his hand, looking at the other person with great interest. Du Mingfeng was flustered for a moment, and his voice began to stutter. I assure you, I really didn't know. It was my mother who secretly found someone to act as a matchmaker for me. She had already made a deal with them before coming back to tell me, and I had no choice. Luo Yu understood a bit and sneered, saying, Are you saying you're going to ruin our engagement and remarry? Luo Yu didn't know what was going on with their engagement. In the original owner's memory, Du Mingfeng was her fiancé, and they would get married after he passed this autumn. Du Mingfeng said, Xiao Yu, I don't want to either. Look, we grew up together since childhood, we were childhood sweethearts, and we have feelings. Last year, my grandfather passed away, and my parents tried to stop us like that. I was able to handle it, and I just like you. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Unable to carry it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Unable to carry it. Luo Yu said, Can't you handle it now? Du Mingfeng's parents really don't like Luo Yu, this unlucky guy. They used to cry, make trouble, and hang him to force him to withdraw, but Du Mingfeng couldn't bear it. He is a scholar, the most noble. He believes that all the comments on Luo Yu from outside are secular, and even holds her accountable. Moreover, Luo Yu had attended a private school in the LV family for several years, and his thoughts and behavior were different from those of other women, and he was even more in love with him. In addition, Luo Yu's appearance is indeed handsome, and it is difficult to find a second woman with such a beautiful appearance in all directions within these 10 miles. Luo Yu was once deeply moved, thinking that he was her lover and that he understood her the most. I don't know why he suddenly couldn't bear it today. Du Mingfeng looked sad and helpless. It's not that I can't handle it, it's because my mother has been hired by someone else and the raw rice has already been cooked. What else can I do? Luo Yu. Oh, are you sleeping? Du Mingfeng's expression froze and he awkwardly said, That's not true, it's just. Oh, isn't it that the rice hasn't matured yet? Isn't cooking cooked rice with raw rice a sign of falling asleep? Du Mingfeng. Is this important? Du Mingfeng couldn't see any joy, anger, sorrow, or joy on Luo Yu's face. He felt a little relieved and took a few steps forward, looking at her affectionately. He reached out and took her hands, gently saying, Xiao Yu, you know my heart, that's not what I want. I only have you in my heart, do you understand? Du Mingfeng is not bad looking, with a clear eyebrow and a hint of bookishness. At this moment, his sweet words should be the most lethal for an inexperienced girl. Little did they know that Luo Yu's inner lining had been changed, and his deep affection did not have the desired effect. Luo Yu stared at him without any hesitation in her eyes. She withdrew her hand and sneered, So what? Du Mingfeng took a deep breath, calmed his mind, and said, Xiao Yu, I think I will definitely pass the national exam in May, and my future prospects will not be bad, so I will definitely pick you up when the time comes. Don't worry. Being a concubine. Du Mingfeng frowned almost imperceptibly and said, you don't want to. I don't want to. Luo Yu stood in place, looking at him like a fool. Where did he have the confidence to think that as a concubine, she should be grateful and cry bitterly? Both the original owner and her knew that my place was extremely humble and could only live like an ant. Du Mingfeng was a bit angry and said in a deep voice, Xiaoyu, what about me? As long as we love each other and are together, why do you mind fame? Luo Yu didn't want to entangle with him anymore, so she turned around and left, feeling nauseous to say another word to him. Let her be a 1,000-year-old fox fairy to be a concubine. Jokes. When Du Mingfeng saw her like this, he was even more angry and jumped up. The previous gentleness disappeared in an instant. He reached out and pulled her back, gripping her shoulders with both hands and forcing her to face him, roaring. You heartless person, thank you for thinking about our affairs day and night. Your unwillingness sent me away. Do you really have me in your heart? Is there me? You say it. He shook Luo Yu vigorously, causing her to feel dizzy for a moment. Luo Yu tried her best to calm her mind, staring coldly at him and saying coldly, you let go, me. I won't let go. Unless you say you have me in your heart and promise to be my woman in the future, don't marry anyone. I'll say it again. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Luo Yu's voice was as cold as frost, and his gaze was as sharp as a knife as it scraped towards Du Mingfeng. He hesitated for a moment, but still refused to let go. Luo Yu snorted coldly and said lightly, listen to me, don't talk about your concubine. Even if it's your legitimate wife, I'm not interested. In the future, you'll follow your path of sunshine, and I'll follow my single-plank bridge. Don't offend anyone. If you dare to come over and entangle again, be careful of your third leg. By then, it won't be as simple as just one foot now. Du Mingfeng's face turned pale for a moment, and he turned his head to look at her. He gritted his teeth and said, you are so ruthless. Luo Yu nodded and smiled, hee, it's good to know. Du Mingfeng didn't understand why the girl who was usually gentle and obedient to him was so ruthless today. He thought for a moment, thinking that he might have been pushing himself too hard, which caused the situation to lose control for a while. He suppressed his anger and softened the situation, whispering, Xiaoyu, it's because I was not good earlier and spoke too quickly. Take your time to think about it and reply to me when you think about it, okay? Luo Yugue gave him a cold glance and said, are you deaf or foolish? Didn't I make it clear what I just said? If you keep bothering me, don't blame me for being merciless. She didn't want to continue nagging, looked up and walked away. Unexpectedly, Du Mingfeng became angry and unwilling to let go. Seeing the situation, he rushed up and hugged her. This time, Luo Yu was really annoyed. She didn't have any thoughts about this man at first, but now she has them, very much. He's doing very well. Xiaoyu, don't leave. As I said, I like you. Du Mingfeng thought he would be okay if he hugged her, but he didn't expect her to tilt her head and bite him hard on the neck. He immediately let go of her in pain, and in terror, touched his neck with his hand, bleeding from one hand. Before he could react, Luo Yu kicked him in the chest, and he suddenly took a few steps back, accidentally tripping over a large rock on the ground and falling head-on. Just as he was about to stand up, Luo Yu's foot had already stepped on his chest and he pressed down hard, unable to move. He roared angrily, Luo Yu, how could you treat me like this? We used to love each other so much, how could you be so cruel? A woman who has always been gentle like water, never expected to be so violent. Luo Yu's face was calm, but his words made him shudder. I said, don't provoke me again, otherwise you will die without a place to bury yourself. As her foot exerted force, she only heard a muffled sound, and Du Mingfeng's painful howls rang out. When Luo Song and his wife saw Luo Yu returning alone, they couldn't help but ask Du Mingfeng. Luo Yu smiled faintly and said, Dad and Mom, don't worry about him anymore. He's going to marry someone else. They couldn't help but be stunned upon hearing it. LV Lirong said, Xiaoyu, what's going on? Ming Feng's parents opposed him so much before, and he can handle it. Why did he suddenly change his mind today? Is there any misunderstanding between you? Luo Song said, yeah, I think he's a good scholar. How could he break his promise so badly? No, I have to go to the Du family tomorrow to ask for a clear understanding. Breaking off prematurely has ruined your reputation, hasn't it? Reputation. Does his daughter still have a reputation? Hee, this dad can do it. Right. You need to ask clearly and clearly. This marriage has been engaged for over a decade, so it's not like you just want to quit. These 10 miles in 8 directions, who knows you have already been betrothed to their Du family. Isn't this pushing you to death? End of this chapter. Chapter 6. I am very thin. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. I am very thin. Luo Yu picked up his previous rice bowl and put a piece of braised bird meat in his mouth. Listening to the increasingly excited words of the two elders, he said calmly, don't fuss around. The bride price has already been given and the wedding date has been chosen. Why are you still arguing? Luo Song slapped the chopsticks on the table with a loud bang, causing the mother and daughter to tremble and look at him in terror. Her father, what are you doing? What are you doing? Go to the Du family to fight against them. You're really deceiving me. I'm engaged to my daughter here, but I've been hired by someone else. How could you be such a person? He was about to walk out in a fierce manner when Luo Yu pressed him down with one hand. Dad, you don't need to go. I've already taught him a lesson just now. Du Mingfeng hasn't been up for 10 days and a half, so he probably can't get up. Upon hearing this, the couple's faces were filled with worry. Xiaoyu, what did you do to that person who killed 1,000 knives? We seem to hear screams just now. Did you hit him? LV Lirong quickly picked up her daughter's hand and looked left and right, without any visible scars. According to reason, it is impossible for a daughter with such a weak body to harm the towering Du Mingfeng. Luo Yu chewed a mouthful of mantu and answered in a muffled voice. Luo Song believed that his daughter was trying to stop him and still insisted on going to the Du family to argue. Luo Yu calmly drank the broth and frowned slightly. Dad, there's really no need to go. I reckon they'll come knocking on him soon, he said. Du Mingfeng, that sharp mother, had a son with several broken ribs. It was impossible not to come to her door and tear her apart. When Luo Song and his wife heard her say this, their temples suddenly jumped. What did their daughter do to them? The originally fragrant dinner suddenly faded. The recent incident had little impact on Luo Yu. She ate, drank, and washed before going to bed. Today, she had just started dressing more and more, and was not familiar with the situation. She was starving and feeling very tired. I didn't expect a mortal's energy to be so limited. In the past, she wouldn't have known what exhaustion was. Luo Song has only one child, 2 rooms in the living room, 2 rooms in the east and 2 rooms in the west. They have 1 husband and 1 wife, and she has 1. The house is quite spacious. It is a very dilapidated adobe house. Apart from necessary daily necessities, there are no extra decorations. It is really a family with nothing to do. Luo Yu lay on a rudimentary wooden bed, watching the moonlight seeping through the broken window, gradually falling asleep. Du Mingfeng fainted from the pain in the wilderness, and woke up in the first half of the month, surrounded by silence. He endured the pain, gritted his teeth, and crawled towards home like a dog. Along the way, he happened to meet the Du family who had come out to search for someone. His appearance scared the Du family to death. When asked 3 times, they didn't know and were not clear-headed, so they had to take him back home first and seek someone to treat his injuries. They waited until dawn before making any plans. Luo Yu slept all night, and before it was fully dawn, she had already woken up, feeling relaxed and full of energy. This body has never had a good meal all year round, and it's rare to have something to replenish it, so it naturally comes in handy. Luo Song has already woken up to make breakfast and is ready to use it to go to the market to sell things. She strongly disagreed with Luo Song using a cane to go to the market, but argued that she rushed to the village entrance with her belongings, ready to squeeze into Jiang Bo's cart. Today is a 3-day market day. There were already 3 people sitting on the ox cart, all carrying their own products to sell at the market. As soon as they saw Luo Yu trying to squeeze into the cart with his belongings, they panicked and stopped one after another. "It's full, I can't sit down anymore." Jiang Bo was also reluctant for Luo Yu to ride in his car. After all, her unlucky physique made anyone unlucky. One year, she fell into the ditch. He kindly tried to pull her, but somehow she fell into the ditch and happened to hit a stone, with a big bump on her head that took half a month to dissipate. Once, she was chased and bitten by a big goose at the village gate. He couldn't bear to watch and went to drive the goose away. Unexpectedly, the goose ran and ran, causing a commotion in the rice field where he had just planted seedlings. All the seedlings in his field were affected, and they were even cleaner than when they were first harvested. The most important thing was that there were no more seedlings to replant at that time, and the whole field was one season less planted. That year, their family received less grain, and they couldn't even pay the rent. The whole family went hungry. She has also ridden his ox cart, and every time there are frequent situations. Either the ox is startled and runs around, or it encounters rolling rocks, and many times he almost explains it. So Luo Song was also witty, and later he dared not let her come out to harm him again. But today, she seems to have nothing to do with coming out again. Isn't this a difficult situation? Luo Yu's attitude towards the others in the car can be ignored, but the owner and driver Jiang Bo refused to let her in, which made her a bit unwilling. "Jiang Bo, this car is not full yet. I remember if it weren't for the busy farming season, it wouldn't be a problem for you to take 5 or 6 people in this car. Now that I only have 4 people, and besides, there aren't many things, it definitely would work." Jiang Bo said helplessly and awkwardly, "Xiaoyu, what you're saying is that you just know that farming is busy, and farming is tiring for cows, so it's not as good as usual." Luo Yu looked at the strong water buffalo like a fierce tiger and said with a smile, "No matter how tired this cow is, it's about the same as pulling me. You see, I'm not as thin as a few, how much can I weigh?" The person in the car snorted, "You're not heavy, but these bamboo shoots weigh several pounds. And this rabbit, who would believe it if it didn't weigh 5 or 6 pounds? Such a good thing has been ruined by this unlucky guy like you. Yeah, if you have self-awareness, you should stay at home well and not wander around and cause trouble. That's right, we still have to hurry. There's no time to accompany you around." Luo Yu frowned slightly and looked at the person in the car with a cold gaze. He said calmly, "Everyone is from the same village, looking up but not looking down. Why make the scene so stiff? You're not afraid that I'll drag you down? Here, we'll give you a guaranteed ticket. If I really mess up again today, my bamboo shoots and rabbits will belong to you. How about that?" Upon hearing this, their eyes lit up a bit. The bamboo shoots and rabbits should be worth several taels of silver. However, after their eyes met, they still felt that it was better to do less than to do more. They quickly waved their hands and said, "Who cares about this thing like you? If you fall to death, what's the use of asking for money? It's okay, just go back quickly and don't make things difficult for us anymore." Jiang Bo saw everyone arguing endlessly and also became a mediator. "How about this? I'll help you take this thing to the market and sell it. How much does it cost, and I'll bring it back to you one by one. How about this?" Yes, we will testify for you to ensure that Jiang Bo cannot do anything false." Everyone thought this plan was very feasible. Luo Yu sneered and narrowed Dan Feng's eyes to look at them, which startled their hearts. A strange feeling rushed up. Aren't you afraid of helping me? Will it bring bad luck? End of this chapter. Chapter 7. 18 Bend Mountain Road. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 7 18 Bend Mountain Road. A few people trembled upon hearing it. After so many years, anyone who had any connection with her was not doing anything good. Humph, since you've said that, why are you still so ignorant of harming us? Jiang Bo, don't procrastinate with her anymore. The sun has already come out, and if you drag on any longer, we'll end up scattered. A unlucky ghost, who cares who's unlucky? That's right, if you have self-awareness, you should stay away. Luo Song, her brain has been kicked out by a donkey. Let her out. Jiang Bo looked at Luo Yu in embarrassment and squeezed out a smile that was even uglier than a smile. Xiao Yu, I'm sorry, I'm powerless, he said. Luo Yu gritted her teeth and said, how about I help you drive the car and still pay you the fare? Jiang Bo was wavering, but the people in the car were even more opposed. Do you dare us to take the bus? Let's pull it down. Jiang Bo, if you don't leave, we won't take the bus anymore. Jiang Bo was also afraid, and after saying a few words of apology, he whipped the cow on its back. The cow rushed out like an arrow and pulled the car onto the path. Luo Yu lowered his face without hesitation, lifted his foot and ran behind the ox cart, following closely. She didn't feel uneasy about handing things over to Jiang Bo to sell, but she also wanted to take a look at the market. The original owner Luo Yu had very little memory of the market. Fengtian Village is too closed off. If she wants to survive well in this world, she must have a long-term perspective and not just stay in Fengtian Village. Otherwise, like Du Mingfeng and others, just a poor scholar who relies on their family's cultivation of 1 acre and 3 cents of land to provide education, she no longer looks up to her and thinks that being his concubine is a way to elevate her. The people on the ox cart thought that if they didn't let her ride, she would give up the idea of going to the market. Unexpectedly, she was carrying something and walking behind them. You should think that there are 6 or 7 miles of road in the town. She walks like this, not to mention it takes time and effort. With her tattered cloth shoes, her feet will be weak. Everyone exchanged glances with different expressions, and then ignored her. Since she is so stubborn and doesn't suffer a bit, she wouldn't be obedient. Halfway through the journey, the sun had already risen and the temperature was gradually getting higher. Luo Yu was carrying more than 10 pounds of things and was sweating all over. Fortunately, when I got up in the morning, I chewed the mantu that was left last night. I am not very hungry now, otherwise I would have no strength. Everyone didn't expect her to have such good physical strength, always following closely behind the ox cart without falling behind. Although she still sneered in her heart, it was not easy to say anything to stimulate her anymore. Jingxi Town, where Fengtian Village is located, is an affiliated small town of Shangjing City and is not far from Shangjing City. It is a must-pass road to Shangjing City and the town is relatively prosperous. To the south of Fengtian Village, there is a small road that leads directly to the north gate of the capital. When officials have urgent matters to enter the capital, they will take this small road. It's just that the mountain road is rugged and winding. If you're not familiar with the road conditions, it's easy to fall into the deep ditch on the roadside. If you have to, no one will take this road. They spent quite some time arguing at the village entrance before, so they left in a hurry, hoping to arrive at the market as soon as possible, occupy a good spot, and take out their goods so that they could come back early to continue working. Jiang Bo listened to everyone's urging and felt a bit restless. He watched as the sun had already risen and his vision was unobstructed. With his familiarity with the road conditions, he whipped down a few times and drove the ox cart away. The ox cart ran, and Luo Yu followed suit. She was not familiar with the route, and if she fell behind, she would get lost. Jiang Bo's posture and technique are very skilled, and he can easily move forward on the winding mountain road. When he heard the people in the car praising him, he couldn't help but feel a bit dizzy. He often turned around to chat with everyone, and even didn't notice the hurried sound of horse hooves coming from ahead. Luo Yu showed no interest in their boasting, just focused on paying attention to the surrounding road conditions, thinking that in the future, if she didn't follow them, she could still enter the city alone. As soon as she reached a turning point, below was a cliff, she heard a sound of horse hooves kicking and stomping. She was startled and quickly shouted, "Jiang Bo, there are horses ahead. This mountain road is only over a zhang wide. If you don't avoid it in time, both sides will definitely collide." They were chatting happily at the moment, not hearing what Luo Yu said clearly. They thought she was walking too tired and wanted to squeeze into the car, but they all looked at her reluctantly. "Xiaoyu, what are you talking about?" Jiang Bo pulled the cow's leash, and no matter what, he couldn't bear a girl following like this. Before Luo Yu could answer him again, 2 galloping horses rushed towards him, followed closely by 1 or 2 luxurious carriages, suddenly appearing at the bend. The one who walked ahead saw the ox cart on the opposite side and was so shocked that he quickly grabbed the reins. The horse was startled and let out a roar. Its front foot flew up, took a few steps back, and almost collided with the carriage following closely behind, causing a chaotic scene. The situation on this side of the ox cart was not much better. The ox was already frightened and went crazy, pulling the cart to rush over. For a moment, 2 wheels fell off the roadbed, and the cart was tilting. It was about to overturn, causing the people on the ox cart to scream in shock. Luo Yu quickly helped Jiang Bo hold the cow. The person on the cart saw Luo Yu hiding far away alone, looking at them indifferently, filled with resentment. The ox pulling the car had already gone crazy, ignoring that the car was about to fall off. He only tried hard to shake off the rope on his body and charge forward, throwing Jiang Bo from the driver's seat and hanging it on a tree. The 3 people on the car were panicked and wanted to jump, but they were afraid that the car would shake and move unsteadily across the edge of the cliff. They were very likely to roll off the cliff with just 1 jump. So they can only seek help from Luo Yu, who has no power to catch chickens. Luo Yu gritted his teeth and said, "I'm afraid that if I make a move, you might fall off immediately and there will be no bones left. So I'll do my best to stay away." The ox cart was about to fall, and as a weak woman, she couldn't hold it, and her whole body would also fall. Then the ox cart would fall off the cliff without any suspense. The people in the car felt an infinite amplification of fear upon hearing it. "You're really good." The 2 people in front calmed the horse and underestimated the carriage a few times, as if receiving instructions. They jumped up and flew to the side of the ox cart. One person picked up the reins on the ground with lightning speed, controlling the mad cow. The other person flew up and landed on the edge of the cliff, kicking the ox cart back onto the road with 1 foot. The crisis of the cart falling and people dying was instantly resolved. When everything fell to the ground, the person on the cart let out a gasp of shock. Luo Yu looked at these 2 people, about 20 years old, with a very handsome appearance and extraordinary clothing. At first glance, they were not ordinary people. How about capturing someone like this to become a husband in the future? No, 2 together. While Luo Yu was still daydreaming, he heard them scolding loudly, "You should not be distracted while walking on the mountain path. If we hadn't restrained our horses in advance, everyone would have died on this mountain cliff. That's right, our horses' hooves sound so loud that you should have heard of them before. Why didn't you just avoid them and rush over like this?" End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Assessing the situation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Assessing the situation. The ox cart was originally hit by the carriage for no reason and almost fell off a cliff. They were angry and wanted to argue with the other party, but later the other party intervened to save them. The situation was dangerous and they couldn't find a strong reason to entangle. Furthermore, if it weren't for their focus on chatting and the clear sound of horse hooves, they should have been able to hear it. Moreover, the opponent's attire, tall horses, extraordinary attire, and splendid carriage were clearly not easy to provoke, so even if they were angry at this moment, they dared not speak and could only silently apologize. The two of them, seeing that they had made a mistake, also calmed down a bit and quickly returned to the side of the carriage. They underestimated the car window with thick curtains hanging over it a few times, and then mounted their horses to prepare to move forward. Luo Yu stared at the carriage, curious about what kind of person was sitting inside. The person in the car seemed to sense her gaze, and suddenly lifted the curtain. A pair of deep eyes cast outwards, and a sharp gaze fell on Luo Yu. Luo Yu's heart trembled slightly, realizing that there was such a person in this mortal world. His face was as handsome as a blade, seemingly unrestrained but heart-wrenching, with a calm and imposing aura that made people shudder. This is undoubtedly the immortal lord in their upper realm. Why didn't you lend a hand just now? The carriage passed by her side, and Ming Zhen's muffled voice came. Luo Yudan's phoenix eyes curved, her hands spread out, and she said innocently, "Look at me, a weak woman. How can I pull a crazy ox cart?" Upon hearing this, the other party's face trembled invisibly, staring at Luo Yu for a moment before revealing a mocking expression. Without further ado, they slowly lowered the curtain of the carriage and disappeared ahead as it ran wildly. Luo Yu sneered. He just stayed on the carriage and didn't move. Why should he ask her to take her life to fight? Another old fox. Jiang Bo, you have to be careful this time and don't get distracted anymore. The ox cart set off again, leaving everyone with lingering fear. The blame for this interlude was directly on Luo Yu's head. If it weren't for her following, they wouldn't have been like this. It's just that Luo Yui didn't get in their car, and air didn't come into contact with them. Even if they had resentment in their hearts, they didn't dare to show it openly. They could only play a riddle with each other to know who they were cursing at. Luo Yu didn't do what he wanted and followed them to the market as if nothing had happened. Jingxi town is indeed bustling. People come and go, merchants buy and sell, shops stand tall, restaurants are numerous, creating a prosperous atmosphere. Although Luo Yu has lived for thousands of years, in her memory, she has always been solitary and has a special cultivation path. She emphasizes the timing and location of the times, and when she finds high-quality resources, she has enclosed them as boundaries and will not associate with others. She had also transformed into a human and wandered through the world, but after all, she was a passing traveler and had never become a part of it as deeply as she is today. Oh, it turns out that the high and cold in the immortal world is lonely and lonely. Perhaps, this journey to the mortal world was also a pity for her 1,000 years of cultivation by the heavenly way. Jiang Bo and his companions chose to sell things under the city gate. They are well aware that their belongings do not attract the attention of the wealthy in the city, and selling them to passers-by here would increase their chances. Luo Yu did not stop at the city gate and went straight into the city, turning around wherever it was bustling. Finally, he chose the most crowded West Market. Shishir is the most prosperous market in Jingxi town, with everything necessary in daily life, including rouge, water powder, clothing, brocade, and silk, all of which are needed by the nobles in the capital. The styles keep up with the trend in the capital. All the stalls in the West Market are open, and as long as you pay 10 won of tax, you can find a place to sell things. Luo Song gave her 20 won in the morning. Luo Yu paid 10 won, then found a place to place things, took out a clean burlap bag and laid it on the ground, sat down to rest. I'm really tired after walking for so long. Since it's a market, the shouting of selling things and the bargaining of buying things, one wave after another, are full of the atmosphere of the martial arts world. Especially the uncle selling rat medicine across from him, his face flushed as if he was singing a big show, using all his skills to shout out how magical the mice were. He said that the mice had died after eating, and the domestic cat mistakenly took it like a salvia miltiariza tonic. Passers-by only smiled and rarely stopped to visit. Luo Yu rested for a moment, relaxed, took out half of the mantou left in his pocket this morning, and ate it slowly. She eats so slowly. It's really not intentional. The mantu is too disgusting. She can't swallow it. The aunt who was selling vegetables nearby saw that she just sat down to eat mantu for half an hour, which was totally different from the posture of selling things. She was curious and said, "Girl, if you don't shout a few times, others will not know that your things are good." She sold most of her basket of cabbage through her shouting. The elder sister next to her also agreed, "Yes. You look so delicate, this is your first time selling something, right? Don't be shy, just get used to shouting and shouting. No matter how good or rare you are, you still need someone else to hear and see you." They had already seen the goods she had placed on the ground, and looked at them with envy. If it were them, they would have sold them through their throats long ago. She looked lazy and lazy. I'm really a bit anxious for her. Upon hearing this, Luo Yu smiled gently and said, "Sister, you don't have to worry about selling good things. If you want to shout loudly, are you bigger than the uncle selling rat poison next to you?" The two women were momentarily dumbfounded. That person was also very loud. "Listen, my ears hurt. Although you don't want the shouting of those people from the martial arts world, you can't keep your voice down, right?" said the aunt with a sense of empathy. "That's right, anyway, guests still need to be greeted before they can come." The two of them saw that she was not moved, so they couldn't speak up anymore. At this moment, a handsome man in his 20s, dressed in good brocade clothes, slowly walked towards this side, his eyes searching for the goods on the stall. When he met a good one, he took a few steps closer and glanced at it. Without saying a word, he asked the servant following him to pay and pack it in a bag. He paid and left without much bargaining, and it seemed like a big purchase. Luo Yu's eyes were sharp, and he saw the visitor at once. He quickly put the remaining mantu into his mouth, swallowed it, swallowed some water to calm down, and called softly. "The spring bamboo shoots and spirit rabbit row in the deep mountains and old forests have been eaten to strengthen the body and prolong life. Hey! The quantity is limited, there are many more. I missed this village, and this shop will never be available again." Two women next to me. They said they wouldn't shout. Hey, speak better than sing. "The spring bamboo shoots and spirit rabbit row in the deep mountains and old forests have been eaten to strengthen the body and prolong life. Hey! The quantity is limited, there are many more. I missed this village, and this shop will never be available again." Dekai Mai was just a few steps ahead when he heard a strange shout. He couldn't help but look up and saw a beautiful girl shouting. He couldn't help but laugh, "The spring shoots and spirit rabbits in the deep mountains and forests. Girl, where did you get this thing? It's the busy farming season now, and this game is indeed very rare." Luo Yu saw that the other person was extremely handsome and had a kind expression on his face. He couldn't help but smile politely and say, "Big brother, do you know about Mount Dayuan? Mount Guling?" Upon hearing this, Zheng Ai burst out laughing and said, "You little girl, even selling something can be said to be ancient. The Great Plains Mountain is indeed a deep mountain and old forest, but who would say it's the Elder Spirit Mountain?" End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The higher priced one will receive. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. The higher priced one will receive. Luo Yu was not angry even after being refuted, but still smiled and said, "Big brother, I grew up in Fengtian Village at the foot of Dayuan Mountain. Since I was young, I have heard an old man say that Dayuan Mountain is an ancient spiritual mountain, where there are many immortals living. Someone has also seen them in the mountain. Look, our Fengtian Village is a famous longevity village, with many elderly people over 100 years old. Why is this? It's not that we have absorbed the spiritual energy of Dayuan Mountain and are protected by it." Luo Yu spoke eloquently, and gradually more and more people gathered around him, nodding incessantly. The mountain of Dayuan Mountain is huge, with various legends, and Fengtian Village does indeed have many long-lived elderly people, known as Changshu Village. Therefore, Her words are extremely attractive, and everyone is asking about the prices of these two things. However, Luo Yu was not in a hurry to give a quote and continued to talk to everyone about the story of the Yuan Mountain, pushing the atmosphere to a higher level. The onlookers unconsciously entered the role of listening to the play, clapping and cheering from time to time, almost throwing copper coins. However, if there are bowls on site, they are probably thrown full. Luo Yu feels a bit regretful. If she had known to bring out a bowl. Wrong move. Xing Ai was also attracted by the story of Luo Yu, but he still remembered that his task at this time was to purchase. He woke up suddenly and interrupted Luo Yu's narration of painting sound and color. How do you sell these bamboo shoots and rabbits? The high emotions of everyone were suddenly pulled back. Yes, she sells things. Yeah, how can we sell such a top-notch product in the world? How much is it? You give me a price, I'll cover it all. Yo, do you cover everything? You can't treat us as dead anymore. Are you the only one with money? Are we just poor? That's right, you're too arrogant. How much is it? Girl, you'll sell me alone. I have a connection with these things. Oh my God, there's still fate. When it comes to fate, everyone has fate. Why did we just bump into each other here when we didn't have fate? You're disgusting to just talk about fate, girl. How can you sell it? When everyone shouted loudly and almost made a loud noise, Luo Yu spoke out. Don't be impatient, everyone. I understand your feelings. It's just that this thing is hard to come by, and there's only so much to ask for. It's useless for you to argue and argue. Since everyone likes this thing, let's take the one with the higher price. Right, the one with the higher price will get it. This is fair. No difference. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. How much money could a few bamboo shoots and a rabbit be worth? Everyone still has confidence in the little money in their pockets. Since everyone agrees, I will set a bottom price. If you like, please continue bidding, with a bidding gradient of 10 taels. Okay. Everyone held their breath and waited for the bottom price. I saw Luo Yu clearing his throat and shouting cruelly, the bottom price is 100 taels. As soon as the words fell, everyone's minds roared. What? 100 taels. Just a few bamboo shoots and a rabbit. Then the crisp voice rang out again, 100 taels of spring bamboo shoots and 200 taels of rabbits. Thunderbolt from the blue. The scene suddenly exploded, with a few spring shoots and a rabbit weighing 300 taels. Crazy. 300 taels can buy a few £100 of such a thing. It's enough to build a house that's just a few steps into the living room. A BMW doesn't even need 300 taels. This thing costs 300 taels. The friar belongs to the friar, but no one dares to speak out and refute it. After all, who said the higher-priced one got it just now? Who said this bidding is fair? Who said they want to cover everything? Who said to seek fate? Isn't it shameful to say it's expensive now? Isn't it true that you are a poor person without money in your pocket? Rich people feel embarrassed to speak up, while those without money dare not speak up and wait to watch a good show. After a while, the frying pan begins to fall silent, and the atmosphere cools down for a while. The needle can be heard. Luo Yu was not in a hurry, waiting with a smile on her face, as if her things were worth the money. If they didn't buy them, someone would buy them, and it didn't matter if they didn't sell them. I'll give 110 taels to buy spring bamboo shoots. Finally, someone refused to be slapped and came forward to bid. I'll give 120 taels to buy spring bamboo shoots. No one wants to compete. I'll give 210 taels to buy a spirit rabbit. It depends on who has the money. I'll spend 130 taels to buy spring bamboo shoots. This money is meant to be spent until everyone knows it to be enjoyable. I'll give 240 taels to buy a spirit rabbit. Even if you grit your teeth. After bidding here, everyone breathed a sigh of relief, with over 130 bamboo shoots and 241 rabbits. The bidding voice stopped. It is estimated that the bidders' teeth have all been bitten apart. They knew it was not worth it, but for the sake of face saving, they had to grit their teeth and bid. Unexpectedly, everyone had swollen faces and pretended to be fat, shouting as if they didn't want money. If they didn't kill the broken teeth, it would be gone. After waiting for 10 breaths, Luo Yu saw that no one was bidding again, so he spoke up and said, "If no one is bidding again, then these bamboo shoots and rabbits can only be priced at 130 taels and 240 taels. I'll give 500 taels to buy these two things." A deep voice came. Everyone's blood suddenly froze, and they looked at the voice incredulously. They saw Zheng Ai calmly looking at Luo Yu with a smile in his eyes. After being shocked, the person who had just bid breathed a sigh of relief. If they really bought these two things for 100 or 200 taels, they would definitely be in excruciating pain when they got home. Luo Yu didn't expect Zheng Ai to offer such a high price. He was taken aback for a moment before speaking up and asking, "Brother, this is not a joke. You need to think carefully." Zheng Ai. "I know, 500 taels. Luo Yu. Okay, is there anyone else bidding? If not, 500 taels for the first time, 500 taels for the second time, 500 taels for the third time. Deal." Everyone was amazed. A few bamboo shoots and rabbits sold at sky-high prices. The crowd once again exploded. I marvel at Luo Yu's excellent sales methods and admire Zheng Ai's bold moves. Although those people just wanted to make a name for themselves, they couldn't afford to spend 500 taels like Zheng Ai to buy a few bamboo shoots and a rabbit. After all, conscious people know that the real thing is not worth it. Although the goods are not worth it, they are not forced to buy or sell. They are all paid and delivered in front of everyone's eyes. It is entirely reasonable for everyone to be willing, and the entire process is beyond doubt. So when I woke up suddenly, I had to admire this little woman's methods. The aunt and sister next to her were so shocked that they couldn't speak. It turns out they were shouting like this. The old man selling rat medicine across from him had long abandoned his stall and ran over to become an audience member. After the crowd dispersed, he returned to his stall and could no longer arouse his interest in shouting. The money he received from selling a few spring shoots and a rabbit was enough for him to spend his entire life. Sigh. People are more than people, more than dead people. The onlookers had already dispersed, and Luo Yu handed the things to Zheng Ai to prepare to leave. Zheng Ai stopped her. "Miss, dare you ask for your name?" Luo Yu was shocked and quickly arched his hand, saying, "My name is Luo Yu, from Fengtian Village." At first glance, the girl is an extraordinary person. I estimate she will make some achievements in the future. Today, I can be considered as a friend of mine, Zheng. If you have any goods in the future, feel free to come to Fengyi restaurant to find me. I am the manager there. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Fengyi Tower. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Fengyi Tower. Thank you, General Manager Zheng, for your kind words. Zheng Ai's words deeply moved Luo Yu. In this world, women are all subordinate to men, and it is difficult for them to be recognized by the mainstream of the world. After thinking for a moment, Luo Yu said, "Since General Zheng is the general manager of Fengyi Building, he will definitely need such wild game in the future. I can continuously provide you with such goods in the future, how about that?" Zheng Ai paused and looked at her with great interest. "A steady stream. So you can hunt a lot of such wild game. So you're a skilled hunter." His smile grew stronger. It's hard to imagine a delicate woman like her being a skilled hunter. Luo Yu said, "You're joking, it's just my father who knows some tricks. Everyone knows that it's impossible for a delicate woman like her to be a skilled hunter." "Okay. So. What's the price? Zheng Ai hesitated a bit. If he still spent 500 yuan on two things like today, his brain would really be kicked by the donkey. Luo Yu understood what he was thinking and quickly said, "Don't worry, the price will definitely be based on the market price. You usually purchase as much as you want. As long as you are fair, I will also be fair." Zheng Ai was relieved and said happily, "Success. I need 20 pounds of wild game in 3 days, anything is fine. I'll pay you a deposit of 20 taels first, and then settle the payment according to the goods. How about that?" Luo Yu suppressed his inner joy and repeatedly said, "Success." Taking the 20 taels of deposit handed over by the servant, thanking Zheng Ai, she left. Today's release is an experience gained from her occasional wandering in the world before. The scene she saw at that time was much larger than this. 100 or so people, dressed neatly and sitting in the grand and transparent building, looked solemn and dignified, but in reality, they were all deceiving people. A broken bowl or dish could be sold at a sky-high price. She found it very interesting at the time and watched it several times in a row. Today, due to the outdated venue and equipment in this world, she couldn't make a big battle, otherwise she wouldn't have only earned this little silver. However, it's also good. In the future, there will finally be one gold owner hanging, and there will be more in the future. She carried hundreds of taels of silver and started shopping with a relaxed mood. Zheng Ai and a few servants continued to buy here, and a loyal servant couldn't help but come forward and ask, "Sir, how will this account be calculated today?" "You don't need to worry, it's not included in the purchase order. This. Calculate what I bought myself and deliver it to my house." "Oh. Who would pay for compensation on their first day in office?" Servant. "Sigh, I don't understand the life of a wealthy person." With 520 taels in his hand, Luo Yu's first thought was to have a big meal. "It's nothing if I haven't eaten for 1,000 years. It's been a day since I traveled, like a starving ghost reincarnating, with a pure desire to eat in my heart. As for where to eat. Since the Gold Lord belongs to Fengyi Building, let's go eat at Fengyi Building. Reciprocity and reciprocity. Sincere feedback. Fengyi Tower is located in the busiest southern part of Jingxi Town, near the entrance of the capital city. It is full of shops, restaurants, and theaters, making it the busiest place in the entire town. Luo Yu stood in front of the Fengyi Tower, looking at the three big characters, Fengyi Tower, with dragon flying and phoenix dancing. The decoration was very grand, and there was a constant stream of guests coming and going, with a bustling house. Fengyi Restaurant is rumored to be opened by imperial chefs who serve in the palace. Many dishes are exquisite and delicious, and are loved by high-ranking officials and nobles. It is one of the top restaurants in Jingxi Town. The receptionist at the door saw that Luo Yu was dressed in tattered clothes and didn't want to greet her. However, seeing her elegant and refined appearance, he finally welcomed her in with a good voice. "Excuse me, miss, what would you like to eat?" The waiter settled in his seat and held the menu, his heart pounding. Although Fengyi Tower is a famous building in Jingxi Town and attracts a constant stream of guests all day long, it is still rare for a woman like her to come alone. Luo Yu took the menu and felt a headache when she saw the densely packed names of the dishes. Are people in this world so delicious? How could they come up with so many dishes? And the dish name is also very elegant, such as the twin swallows flying in the sky, the 1,000 sails sailing in the sea, the birds singing and the green bamboo, and the red flowers intoxicating the spring sun. What are all these things? Eating a meal and guessing riddles is not enough. Cough cough. Luo Yu cleared his throat, glanced at the menu, and then turned to the waiter and said, "So, as for the menu, I won't look at it. Can you recommend your signature dishes?" The waiter smiled knowingly and said confidently, "Success. The best-selling dish in our store is Drunken Spring Lantern, and almost every visitor orders one, which is highly praised." "Okay, click this. Drunk Spring Night. Ecstasy. There's also, Big Chiao Sai Xiao Chiao, both dishes that female guests like. A beauty pageant. Okay. Young Chunbai Shui's charming eyes are also favored by many, and after eating the bun, you can't stop praising it. Okay. Qinghua Pool Bathing Beauty is also our main dish. Line. I suggest you try the Spring River Flower and Moon Shadow. Okay, listen to you. Also. No, may I ask if you are eating alone? No matter what the shop assistant recommended, Luo Yu accepted everything without objection, and couldn't help but wonder. It's just one person, what's wrong? Is it difficult for someone not to eat? Miss, you have ordered 10 dishes and 1 soup. It should be enough. Enough for one person to eat, right? The shop assistant's first encounter with a girl with so many family points made the drum in his heart beat even louder. Isn't he a fool? Or do you have no money at all and want to come and eat or drink? Luo Yu has no concept of this portion at all. Upon hearing his reminder, he thought it should be enough, right? Okay, go ahead and order these first. If it's not enough, then order more. Okay. Okay, please wait a moment and have some tea first. The dishes will be ready soon. The waiter quickly retreated. Instead of reporting the menu in the kitchen, he ran inside to find the security chief. There was a high possibility that this person wanted to grab food and drink. As soon as he entered the inner courtyard, he met the newly purchased manager Zheng Ai and quickly reported the whole situation to him. Upon hearing his description of the character traits, Zheng Ai thought of Luo Yu whom he had met in the morning. He noticed the servant next to him and took a look. Soon, the servant returned to report that it was Luo Yu. Don't worry, that girl won't be able to eat the King of Fighters meal. You can order according to her. Do you know her? Yes, this is what we do for the small ones. The small ones use the heart of a petty person to treat a gentleman's belly, damn it. Zheng Ai waved his hand and said calmly, it doesn't matter. In the future, don't judge people by their appearance or clothing. Remember, little ones. The waiter left to serve vegetables, and Zheng Ailang was lost in thought. A rural woman who had worked hard to hunt up the mountain was willing to use her hard-earned money to go to their Fengyi building to eat and drink. Interesting. Not long after, the dishes ordered by Luo Yu began to be served one after another, and she was dumbfounded. How dare this person think? End of this chapter.